To paraphrase Hunter S. Thompson, when you get locked into a serious beer collection, the tendency is to push it as far as you can.
Cheers.
Son of a bitch! Give me a drink! One more night! On this cramping thing! Son of a bitch! If I drink it clean, I'm gonna drink my life away.
Welcome back to the Tap Takeover Podcast. We're happy to have you, and it's been a busy time for the podcast. We just got done with Milwaukee Beer Week. We've got a road trip up to Green Bay for some interviews with some amazing breweries up there. Jim, Andy, Jesus, and I, we're all very happy to bring all of this to you, and we wanted to give you a little heads up. So right now, we're going to be doing Badger State Brewing, which is the next installment of our brewery interview series. After that, next week is going to be a very special bonus episode. We're going to wrap up Milwaukee Beer Week. You may have seen us out and about all over the place during Milwaukee Beer Week, which unofficially started at Stein and Dine on the 22nd of April and went all the way till Saturday the 29th of April. Lots of events. We here at the Tap Takeover Podcast tipped a few pints that week. So we're really excited to bring that episode for you. And right after that, the very next week, we're going to continue with our Green Bay road trip series. We've got Stillmank Brewing, and right after that, 2 weeks later, it'll be Noble Roots. So really, really excited. More breweries on the way. We've got a lot of breweries reaching out to us. But let's get into the beers, gentlemen. Let's talk about Badger State Brewing. We had a lot of fun. Jim, what was your biggest impression of Badger State Brewing?
It was absolutely the variety of beers. They're doing some very exciting things up there. They're not doing just a status quo. They've got some solid core beers, but they're also really expanding, being experimental with some of their barrels. They're doing some barrel aging, which is interesting. They're doing some really interesting things with coffee. Their Buzzy Badger was fantastic. I'm not a big brown ale fan, but what Sam Yanda is doing up there with his brown ales is really, really tasty. And Sam's a great guy. So it was a real hoot. It was one of the best interviews that we've had so far, and a great brewery. I think they're really going to start to make a mark coming up soon.
Well, speaking of those barrels, let's get into the beer that we're going to be drinking here. One of these we tried with Sam, the other we brought with us, so we could try it with Andy and Jesus. So the first one is going to be the Mega Blonde, aged in Chardonnay barrels with peaches added, and the second is going to be the Belgian Golden Ale, aged in Cabernet barrels. Now, you can definitely tell a distinct difference between these two. One has got an actual red hue, and that one's got to be the Cabernet barrels. So Jesus, what are your first impressions of this one?
I gotta confess, the Mega Blonde I'm not really a fan of, but I think it has more to do with the temperature. Yeah, a little bit warmer than it should be, but you still get that sweetness. Is this the one with peaches?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely get that. I think it's boozy. I don't know. Maybe we had a couple before this, but
well, it's just over 7%. So their base ale on this is their Golden Ranger, kind of a Belgian strong, 7.2, 7.5, somewhere in there. So not overly boozy though. The Chardonnay barrels.
I do like that sweetness in there.
Yeah, the Chardonnay barrels are much more subtle than, especially when we're going to be tasting the Cabernet, where the barrel really comes through. This is much more subtle, and the peaches I think added a sweet hue to it as well. So not overpowering as a beer.
So this doesn't really hit me in the face of like an aged beer or something that was in a barrel like that. I mean, what do you pick up? What should we be tasting? Because when I've tried this other one, you definitely taste the wine. So you definitely taest it, you know.
So this was Chardonnay barrels in the Mega Blonde. Okay, that would be why I'm getting that dry flavor then. Pretty dry beer to me. It's kind of lacking. The peaches do give you that sweetness on the back end. Get a lot of the Chardonnay barrel when you do the Dave Wilson chewing technique. But
Yeah.
But you taught us so much.
I would agree with Jesus that the Belgian Gold Ale that's in the cab barrels, this is really, really good to me.
Yeah,
Huge barrel profile on it.
The peaches in the first one are very, very subtle. I actually kind of like it for that, because sometimes when you get like a sour peach ale or something, the peaches are like really in your face. So the peaches are a little subtle. I do agree. It's very dry, which, you know, some people enjoy that in a beer. It's not always my favorite thing. I prefer the Cabernet barrel as well, because it's got more of a full red grape kind of flavor coming through. It's layered into the Belgian ale that they based this on. So I prefer the Cabernet.
I guess what I was trying to ask Alex or Jim, that I don't feel like it tastes like it was aged in a wine barrel. It doesn't hit me in the face like that.
It's very delicate, I would say, for those who perhaps don't like a barrel aged, and there are those who, you know, do shy away. They think it's too much oak, too much vanilla, too much in your face. This is very delicate, and I agree with you. There's hardly hardly any barrel whatsoever in here. So it's not nearly as pronounced as a lot of the barrel-aged beers that we've drunk. I mean, they're in-your-face oak, like the Cab. This is far more delicate and subtle.
I get it on the nose, I get the barrel on the nose of the Mega Blonde.
Yeah, a lot more of the Belgian esters come through on the Mega Blonde.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't get any of that really on the Cab one.
The Cab just sort of takes over that beer.
Yeah, the tannins on the red come through.
I mean, I guess if you were to say like the star of the show, it's the beer, the original beer. I think is more in this one, and that's what I was trying to say. The barrel to me is not really adding to this, or as much as I think it should be for a wine barrel series.
That makes sense because I think I can taste the barrel, so I don't think that's the correct call. But to say it's not necessarily adding anything to the beer, I might tend to agree. This one not as much of a win as the Cabernet barrel. The Cabernet barrel, the barrel is adding definite element to that beer, and it's a really beautiful thing. The interplay between the red wine and the beer, and maybe for me, I'm not a white wine guy. I'm more of a red wine guy, so there may be a bit of a bias there. So just putting that out there.
What do you think the carbonation level has to do with it? To me, both these beers seem a little overcarbonated.
They are bottle conditioned. I poured a little bit more here at the bottom of the barrel, and I got a lot of yeast. So they're definitely bottle conditioning these. So that could
lucky.
Lucky. So, and again, these are a little warm. They weren't as chilled as much as they should have been. That will also lead to a big head. But it's, I think, calming down a bit after being open a bit.
It did calm down fairly well. Kudos to Badger State, though. I mean, to be that risky to do stuff with wine barrels like that, I mean, it's very good stuff.
Yeah, and this Walk the Vine series, fun little name, kind of a play on Walk the Line by Johnny Cash. I can always get behind a Johnny Cash reference. But it seems like this may be an ongoing series with them, and I can't wait to see what the next variation is going to be.
Yeah, like I said, their variety, they had, 16 of their beers on tap. It was a large number of different varietals on tap at their tap room, plus a number of guest taps as well, and that's also really exciting when a brewery brings in other partners from the area and all their other beers that are really good. Say, come taste our beers. We also got some other good craft beers too.
And for our listeners, we will do a photo dump of all the pictures so you can see the extensive tap list that Jim's talking about.
Well, I think that'll lead us right into the segment. So let's hear from Sam Yanda himself and Brian, the assistant head brewer at Badger State Brewing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tap Takeover Podcast. We're taking the show on the road again. Today, we are at Badger State Brewery, sitting in the shadow of Lambeau Field in Green Bay. Founded by three friends, Badger State opened in 2013 and have gone through 2 expansions since. We're sitting in the barrel room with head brewer Sam Yanda and assistant brewer Brian Jacobs. How you doing, guys?
Great, good.
Where did the name Badger State come from?
We went through many different names. Badger State was the winner. We did our research, no one took the name. We're like, hey, Wisconsin, we're all the Badger State here. Why not? Trademark that, it's ours now.
What's the meaning to you guys being Badger State?
Well, we're really fortunate to have grown up here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We love Wisconsin so much that we just want to be Wisconsin-oriented. Take a lot of what Wisconsin has to offer, bring it back to the brewery, and name the beers, the brewery, as much as we can, Wisconsin-related.
It's hard to believe that the name Badger State was even still available. Are you
guys
surprised
at
that?
Surprised too. Yeah, we couldn't believe it.
And why is it important for you to be here in Green Bay?
It's our hometown, of course. It's our hometown. We love it here. A couple of us have lived in other areas in the United States, but we all came back here, and we just love Green Bay so much. Friends, family. Yeah, we just love it here so much.
Awesome. So for both of you guys, what was your introduction to craft brewing? And did it involve a certain beer, a certain style? And how did that path bring you to Badger State Brewing?
For me, I was home brewing for 8-9 years prior, for just a hobby, of course. I got my cousin, one of the founders, Michael, I got him really into home brewing. And then later on, one of his high school buddies, Andrew, came along, and we all met at a beer festival in Bailey's Harbor, I believe.
Oh, actually, I've been up to that one.
Yeah,
That's a
great.
fantastic festival.
Great fest. He got really interested in brewing or home brewing too, and asked if he could join in with us in my garage. And one thing led to another, and Andrew had the grand idea of starting a brewery. I kind of laughed off the idea at first. I didn't think it would actually come to fruition, but here we are now. So there was a lot of convincing on their part to actually start something like this. It's probably one of the biggest, scariest leaps that I've ever endured.
For me, I didn't even like craft beer at the time that I started homebrewing.
You're fired.
Yep. Get rid of this guy. My mom actually got me started in homebrewing. I fell in love with it almost immediately. I ruined my very first batch, which was extract. I said never again, and went to all grain the next day, and ever since then, it's just been an absolute love, passion, and desire.
Did any of you have any experience working in a commercial brewery prior to starting Badger State?
No.
No, it's just like right in.
Yep. We're like, let's wing it. We can do it. Fake it till you make it. You had worked at Stone Arch.
Yeah, I was working at a brew pub in Appleton.
So what are some of those challenges that you faced starting out?
Money. Well, that's number one. I mean, that's obvious. Starting out, for about 10, 11 months prior to actually opening, we did a lot of experimenting, coming up with our own recipes from scratch, of course, hammering out the different styles, what we wanted to do. So we rolled out with 3 styles in the beginning. We wanted to do like a lighter, medium, maltier one, and a hoppy beer. So once we got those styles hammered out, then it was experimenting every weekend. I mean, we all had full-time jobs at the time. So every weekend we just hammer out, see if anything came out. And once we were pleased with what we had, that's what we started off with. And then we actually gave out a lot of samples prior to see if anybody else would like these beers.
Do you have any challenges with new equipment or a larger size of equipment?
We actually started off on, it's like a 12.5 gallon Brew Magic system. Sam over at Dogfish had made that one famous. That's what he started off on too. But the challenges were making enough beer, because that is so small. We actually rented out a converted locker room. It wasn't too big of an area, but it was big enough for what we wanted to do right off the bat. So we had the Brew Magic rocking. I would do double batches on it every day, just about. Yeah, just making enough beer. Also dealing with Green Bay water supply and the chemistry behind that for each style of beer, water salts, what have you, just to make a really good beer. As home brewers, we didn't have the experience dealing with water back then. We always made more maltier beers, and then that kind of balanced it out. Now, when we were getting on the lighter, hoppier side, then challenges started arising. So there was a lot of reading books about that, water chemistry and all that, but we finally figured it out, and game on.
So we should talk about where we are today. We're sitting in your barrel room and brand new expansion onto your brewery. So just for our listeners, you're going to hear a little condenser sound in the background. You're going to hear a little echoey quality. But that's really the beauty of the podcast, is actually being in these areas, meeting you guys where you guys work. Thank you again for bringing us in.
No problem. Absolutely.
And of course, this being the Tap Takeover Podcast, we're sitting down for a live tasting. So you guys have kind of set out a little flight for us. Do you want to kind of lead us through exactly what we're going to be trying today?
Yeah, the 3 beers that I actually talked about earlier that we started off with are here: Walloon Vit Beer, our Bunyan Badger Brown Ale, and Green Chop Session IPA. And then also part of our core flagship brands is On Wisconsin Red Ale and Dubious Ruffian Chocolate Stout.
So on our podcast, we'd like to encourage our brewers to tell their brewery story through their beers. And so if Badger State were to take over the taps at the Tap Takeover Podcast, which of these beers, including the ones you just mentioned, would you choose to tell that story? Do you have any rare release stuff that you would put on that Tap Takeover, or would it mostly be the flagship type stuff?
Ooh, good question.
I know which one you choose.
I don't know. That's another. Yeah, there's so many that I love. Let's see. Of these 5, my baby is the Bunyan Badger Brown Ale.
Called it.
That one. Yeah, I've always been a real big brown ale fan. It's like one of the more underappreciated beers out there, but I really love brown ales. Just not too malty, not too light. And it's also a different kind of brown ale than people would be kind of used to. It's a little sweeter. I use a little bit of rye malt and roasted barley in it. So that is a little different than the traditional brown ale out there. It's more kind of closer resembles a English style brown ale, Badger State twist.
What about you, Brian? What would you pick?
You know, it's hard. I'm a brown ale fan myself, and the Bunyan Badger is absolutely fantastic. I'm a stout guy, though, when it comes to a beer that says something about a brewery. Our Dubious Ruffian is absolutely out of this world. The chocolate notes come through well enough to tell you this is definitely a chocolate stout, but it's not astringent. It's not distracting from the base beer at all. You know, the base of the beer, I should say. This is the beer that I would consider to be a very burly Wisconsin kind of guy beer. You know, this is a beer that I enjoy drinking a lot of with different types of food. I think it pairs well with, I don't know, everything I eat.
Yeah, it certainly got some subtle roasted notes, but it's full-bodied, but finishes dry as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love the
beer.
brown ale with barbecue. That's my favorite. It always, can't get enough of it.
All right, so let's round out this tap takeover. So we got a couple of dark ones.
Sure.
Where would we go as far as an IPA if we're taking over these taps?
Green Chop is our session IPA, 4.8%. 6 different varieties of hops, and I'll go into that one.
Nice.
Love it. Great beer, great sessionable beer. But my favorite IPA that we make here, not available just yet. Had a little hop problem with that, getting this one variety of hops that we use in it. But we did acquire some, and we'll be rolling this one back out. Mean Green is what we call it. I can't get enough of that beer. Just love it. It's got like a really very citrusy tropical notes, 7%. It has this one super unique hop that's probably my favorite. Not probably, it is my favorite. So
Which one's that?
the hop variety is Nelson Sauvin.
Oh, from New Zealand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you work on, a lot of breweries have hop contracts, so how do you work on getting
I screwed up and I experimented with the hop variety, not knowing how rare of a hop variety it is. So I just brewed an experimental batch with it. Right now we have our pilot brew system does about 36 gallons. So we like to do that like once a week, or once every other week on that. This IPA that I made, I was just playing around with these hops that we had collected just randomly. And I'm like, let's try some Nelson here. Whirlpool some tangerine peel in the end, and it just was a huge hit. Everyone couldn't get enough of it. And then when we finally looked into getting more ingredients to make it on a bigger scale, we ran into the roadblock of not being able. Well, the pricing on it is so crazy that it was like triple, quadruple the price that we were used to paying. And then all of a sudden, everyone got wind of this hot variety, and everyone else is using it. So it's really hard to get. But I got some now, so I'll be bringing it back soon.
So if we're rounding out this tap takeover, we usually like to throw some sort of special release, something that gets the beer geeks out of their houses into the bar. So what's a special release that you guys would throw onto the Tap Takeover podcast tabs?
Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's the whiskey business all day. It's fantastic. A lot of barrel, a lot of body, super creamy. I can't get enough of that beer. I can't stop drinking that one.
Got some barrels sitting right here. You could,
but it's a pretty high ABV beer, so you got to be careful.
I guess.
Yes, we do. Yes.
You told us earlier it's been 12 to 13 months in those barrels.
Yeah, correct. Yes, I'm debating on, right now I've been using the barrels twice over, so the second time, of course, I'm going to age them. So last year's edition was 9 months. This year's about 12 and a half months.
Yeah, you can tell.
to get
It
that,
really picks up those oak and vanilla characters from that barrel.
Yeah.
Can you tell us where the barrels came from?
Most of them came from Heaven Hill. Others, they like to sand down the name, so there's whatever. Distilleries some of them don't like to divulge that
Gotcha.
information.
What would yours be, Sam?
For rare cellar bottles, what have you. Mine, there's so many bourbon barrels out there, aged beers out there, but mine, and it was kind of a surprise. We were experimenting with wine barrels, and so one of our beers, Gold Ranger, Belgian gold beer, we aged in Cabernet barrels.
Oh, okay.
So those were aged in Cabernet barrels for 9 months, and then finally, as it progressed, I knew it after 4 or 5 months that something special was going to be coming from this. So, and it gave this really awesome little red hue to it. I had a clue until you don't really know until you carbonate the beer and how much of the wine flavor was coming through, the wine and the oak flavor, and just phenomenal. I got a bottle here sitting ready for you guys. So
All right.
we'll be trying
Well,
soon.
that'll be coming up in part 2 of the interview, right after we do some beer news later. But let's stay in the business side and the production side of the brewing. So take us through any one of your beers. Take us through the inspiration for that beer. We'd like to know about how that inspiration translates into the actual brewing process, and then how do you market it after you've made it?
Let's see, where should we start? Us 3 founders here, we all have kind of somewhat similar beer style taste preferences. We like, some of us like our lighter wheat beers, hoppier beers. We like to get together on a weekly basis, of course, talk about beers and try different breweries, beers of course, and that really, just trying other beers out there really does it for us, for inspiration wise, and what can be done with it, and then kind of like dissect that beer and make it our own. So we're not totally copying, you know.
Yeah, little.
But you know,
tweaks
yeah,
and
everyone
flavor
does
and
it. Like
whatever.
it's So we got like so many. I mean, and we always like to keep the cans or the bottles that we got to most of them if they look cool for inspiration too. On the marketing side, I'm not the most. I'm not really into the marketing end of it. I'll brew the beer and then I'll let the other guys sell it, you know? Yeah, just trying other people's products is numero uno right there. And just trying to see what new ideas can come out. It's the industry is so fast right now that you gotta be super innovative, trying different stuff out there.
Yeah, we call that research.
I know, right? Oh yeah, R&D. But yeah, we love R&D days.
Tell us about one of those beers recently that you've been inspired by and started a whole train going with the brewery.
Ooh, let's see. What should we pick out? Chili Gordo or
IPA.
Cloud? Oh yeah, let's do that. So yeah, the beer trend out there. We got a couple guys in the tap room that have come by, and one of them has, I think it's his brother out there in Boston, and kept getting wind of these hazy New England style IPAs.
We're big fans.
Just can't, yeah, I just like, I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence a little bit. I'm getting over the hump though. I'm starting to like them a lot better than I used to. But I just couldn't believe how much of the response they were getting out there. So then finally I'm like, let me take a crack at it. So I see you guys are drinking one right now. It says version 2 on our pilot brew system, a hazy IPA, whatever you want to call it, cloudy IPA, hazy IPA, New England style IPA. Yeah. I don't think there's any, is there a consensus as to what?
I think
it's New England style, yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting take on just a tiny little bit of hops in the boil and then just crank out the hops as for dry hopping. So there's the inspiration there. The guy I talked about, his brother, he would send him a bunch of, I think it's like Treehouse and Trillium bottles over, and we would all have like a little mini bottle share. And
It's
so
a
kinda got
departure from your other IPAs, even your session IPAs.
Yeah.
Very traditional. I see the deep copper. I mean, that is a traditional IPA. A lot of breweries are going to a lot more biscuit malts, a much lighter malt. So this really had to be a challenge for you.
Yes. I always want to kind of make, the separate beers different than, I don't want it to be too similar than the IPA just released a year ago, what have you. Make it more different than what the other one is, Yeah, just like, so this one I wanted to go really light, focus really on the citrus hops on this one. I think there's like 3 or 4 hops in this one. Crank it out and make it way different than your other IPA. You don't want to make it too similar.
So when you're developing your recipes, do you source any ingredients locally?
Yeah, we go, right now, 99% of our malt comes from Greece or Chilton. We've done some hops out of the Madison area, but most of them come from the Yakima Valley area. We try to use local ingredients as much as we can. Some of the fruit puree that we've gotten has been locally sourced, concentrate. Yeah, we try to do it as much as we can. Our yeast supplier, not Wisconsin, but Chicago.
As a veteran brewer, really here in Green Bay, what do you think of these young upstarts that are coming along? Are you guys working with them? Are there any collaborations?
Oh yeah. We just did a collaboration brew over at Stillman Brewing Company. Green Bay Craft Beer Week's coming up here. This was our 3rd year doing a collaborative brew. This year we had, 2 more breweries in the Green Bay area join in with us. Real new. One of them hasn't opened yet, but they will be soon. It's great. When we started, there was 2 breweries in Green Bay for 25 years. One was 26, I think. And then when we started, another one was starting too. So boom, before you knew it, we had double the amount of breweries in Green Bay from 2 to 4. Now it seems like it's getting crazier out there. Gotta be on top of your game. But no, it's more the better. It's great.
So can you tell us anything about that collaboration with Still Make? What are you guys coming up with?
Oh, we did a IPA and with pink guava. Yes,
That's
came
different.
out beautifully. I love it. I had my fair share yesterday of it. It's really good. Real nice tropical notes, fruit-forward hops, and then the pink guava really shined through towards the end. Yeah, the pink guava adds like another dimension to this IPA. It's super good. I can't get enough of this one.
And did you say where people will be able to get it when it's released?
Each of the Green Bay breweries will have it on tap. A few of the liquor stores in Green Bay also. Some of the local establishments, bars around the area. We'll have a list up soon.
I keep hearing all about this really cool collab brew, and I'm just like, come on, man, stop teasing me.
Brian had to work in the brewery yesterday while I was out drinking.
Research.
Yes. Actually, we had to bottle it yesterday, and it was fun.
Well, fantastic. And for our listeners, we're actually going to, on our little Green Bay trip here, we're also going to be interviewing Still Make Brewing, so I can't wait to also ask them about the collaboration.
Don't tell them we said hi.
Brad's a good guy. You'll love him.
So what are you doing to kind of keep your edge in this growing market, to differentiate yourself from everyone else?
It's a secret. No.
Okay. Breaking news.
Drink beer.
This is our gotcha journalism.
We all love beer, of course, here, and just keep doing our research, just keep reading up on it and seeing any more trends coming up. We want to stay ahead of the curve, of course. Kind of the New England style IPA thing is probably a good example there. And then what's going to be the next new hot style out there? Kind of have an idea. We'll see. I got to play around and experiment with that yet. We shall see. And and also we like to do different things here, different kind of styles. They're mainly seasonal. Like right now, I got Chili Gordo. It's a smoked porter with jalapenos.
Okay.
We'll be releasing that on Cinco de Mayo.
And shortly behind that one, or at least on the Chili Gordo's heels, we've got the
Mimosita,
Yep.
a wheat ale with blood orange.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, let's get through the rest of the flight, and then we're going to take a little break. So we've gone through the brown, we've gone through the chocolate stout. What's the first one up here? What's this
That's
nice
a Walloon Wit beer, or wheat beer. Very traditional Belgian-style wheat beer, spiced with a little coriander and orange peel. That's for like the lighter beer folks out there. Yeah, that was actually our very first beer that we finalized pre-opening days. And
that's the beginning of the brewery right
yeah,
there.
yeah. Nice, refreshing summer beer. We'll be cranking that one out real
Yeah,
soon here as the weather warms up, hopefully soon.
It's very light on the palate, easy drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of coriander, but it's more subtle in this
Yeah,
one. So
that
can
was
appreciate
that was kind of a challenge there, was how much orange peel, how much coriander to add to it and not make it overwhelming, not too little, but yeah.
I absolutely love Belgian beers, and when I taste another Belgian that has that tremendous amount of orange and coriander that's been added, obviously somewhere in the brewing process, it's like, well, obviously they didn't care enough to articulate the details. They just said, well, throw orange and coriander in there and just, throw a whole lot in there. It'll be fine. I absolutely love our Walloon Wit beer. It's clean, it's refreshing, and the Belgian character comes through without being completely overwhelming either.
Yeah, you're getting some of the esters from the Belgian yeast, but it's not overpowering. It's not a raw banana in your face.
Yes, yeah.
I'll tell you what. Let's double back to the green chop. What's you mentioned 6 different hop varieties. Which varieties are we talking about in this one? Because they really do shine.
Industry secrets.
You want the recipe
here.
too?
It's very interesting because normally with a session IPA, it tastes a little less. You get that sense that you're definitely drinking a session IPA, and you make certain concessions with that. But with yours, I got to say, it's one of the best session IPAs I've ever come across.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is a kind of a Badger State twist on a session IPA. Like you said, it's a little darker. Use caramel 90 in it, and then as far as the hops go, it's very citrusy and then a little bit piney, resinous combo going. Some of the hop varieties: Mosaic, Sterling, Simcoe, Eldorado.
Things that
there's
maybe
another S in there too.
Not a lot of brewers would probably put together a lot of those hops in that order.
That one took a while to finalize. We were just the hop combinations, just experimenting with. Yeah, this one took a little more time because we really wanted to make a really awesome session IPA or an IPA summit. There you go.
Summit,
That's
yeah.
it.
You gotta leave the people wanting a little more.
Yeah. There's one more in there too. I'm gonna not tell you.
And then what's our last one here?
Wisconsin Red Ale.
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of a little hoppier version of a red ale. Amarillo hops go in that one. 6.5%, 6.6 on that one. Yeah, nice malty character with a little hoppier than your normal red ale. A little Badger State twist on that. On Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's
Gotta
got
love the name.
No, and the On Wisconsin, though, is fantastic. It's an easy drinking beer. It's a great entry beer for anybody who's not had a craft brew before because you get a lot of the flavors, but it's not in your face, and it's not going to pull you away from the flavor.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys. We're going to take a little break here, and we'll be right back after beer news.
That's right.
This is Andy and Jesus, and welcome to the Tap Takeover Podcast Beer News. The beer of this episode segment is Velveteen Habit from Ale Asylum of Madison. A floral hop nose with a juicy citra hop intensity perfectly blends with a balanced malt backbone for a touch of sweetness with a crisp hot bite. All of us here at the Tap Takeover Podcast were very pleased when Ale Asylum made this a year-round beer. You can find this tasty brew at any liquor or grocery store in Wisconsin and most in Illinois as well.
For beer releases, Ballast Point Unfiltered Extra Hop Sculpin hit our market a couple weeks ago. This hazy, unfiltered IPA was brewed to celebrate a decade of hoppy California goodness that is Sculpin. Be on the lookout for this one on shelves and taps around the state. Half Acre Galactic Double Daisy Cutter hits our distro area this week. They take their flagship Daisy Cutter, tactfully layer in a testament to the Galaxy hop. In their words, it's a war cry and homage to easy enjoyment and basic pleasures. Get on top of this beer now. It comes in 4 packs and they won't last on the shelves. We just got ours today.
Sierra Nevada recently did their yearly release of Optimum. This triple IPA, clocking in at 9.6 ABV, is hopped in 3 stages. Optimum's final hop edition is a dry lupulin powder made from a cold whole cone citra, Simcoe and Chinook hops that are finely sieved to better expose aromatics. It is engineered with a light body for easy drinking while still keeping it full of hop flavor. Oso's Hop Debacle has made its way to the Milwaukee area. This huge fruit bomb is an homage to the soft New England IPAs. Expect a great big dose of tropical fruit on the nose. Papaya, melon, and bursting citrus flavors explode on your palate from additions of Eldorado, Denali, Citra, and Galaxy hops. In brewery news, the biggest news in the past 2 weeks has come from macro giant AB InBev. InBev has acquired Asheville's beloved brewery, Wicked Weed. It is the 10th brewery to be added to the company's high-end portfolio. While current ownership will still retain 100% creative control, many in the craft beer community are outraged. Other craft breweries, including Wicked Weed's close friends Jester King, have pulled out of collaborations and their annual Funkatorium Invitational. We can see many positive and negative side effects from InBev's latest acquisition, but only time will tell.
In other acquisitions, Lagunitas sold the remaining 50% of the company to Heineken. Founder Tony McGee was quoted as saying, "This was a decision to connect Lagunitas with Heineken completely. They are a very big company and we are a very small company, but at the core we both want the same thing."
In festival news, May 26th through the 28th, the Micro at State Fair has its annual Summer Untapped event. Enjoy 50-plus craft beers on draft, a Bloody Mary/old-fashioned bar, and live music. Stop by on your way to Miller Park or to pregame for a family event. The Micro will announce their tap list this Friday, and you may just be surprised to see a few breweries on the list that aren't part of a distribution network, bucking the trend at State Fair. You may see members of the Tap Takeover Podcast here on Saturday, May 27th, having a few cold ones and talking beer. If you see us, make sure to say hi.
June 3rd is the annual Beer Barons World of Beer Festival in Menominee Falls. This festival features over 350 different beers to sample, as well as a home brewing contest you can sample and judge.
June 17th gives you 3 events to choose from. The top of the list is Wisconsin Beer Lovers Festival at Bayshore Mall in Glendale. This is always a great event featuring breweries and restaurants from all over the great state of Wisconsin. You may find the Tap Takeover Podcast crew at this event as well. Also on the 17th, Good City is having a live music and beer event at their brewery. Jam to some tunes and enjoy not one but 2 special releases. The Fermentorium is also having a live music and beer event at their brewery in Grafton. And this has been the Tap Takeover Podcast Beer News.
That's right.
This is Sam I Am
And Brian the Brewer.
from Badger State Brewing Company.
We're drinking lots of chutney in our beer while listening to Tap Takeover Podcast.
All right, thank you again for the beer news, guys. And we are back for some questions with Badger State Brewing. We have a couple of podcasters who couldn't be here today. It's a little bit of a trip up to Green Bay from Milwaukee. Jesus wanted to know, we're sitting right here by Lambeau Field, home of the Green Bay Packers. What were the decisions that you guys made for this location? Did you scout it out specifically? What are the pros and cons of being by a pro football stadium? And how is business during the offseason?
Good question. We, friends and family, that's how we kind of got into this location here that we knew about. So we had help on that area. Big commercial building like this, vacant for 10, 12 years. Some of the manufacturing companies gone. Heard from family and friends that they were looking to rent out the space. So of course we had help there. Was it 10,000 square feet? So we got a pretty large room here. Started off small though in a converted locker room and then expanded out from there. By Lambeau Field, pros and cons. Pro, we're by Lambeau Field. and home games. Can we swear on this? It can become
Absolutely.
a shit show on game days. Oh, it's fun. Our parking lot, we can hold about 300 cars. Game days, just awesome. Just always packed, free for all, game on.
Lots of fun energy, a lot of smiling faces, people having a blast.
We usually like to try to get food trucks here for every home game because we don't do food here. Strictly commercial brewery. You can bring your own food, get it delivered here. We just don't do food. We're sticking to beer, what we know.
So how early do people start showing up on game day?
Ooh, depending on the time of the game, we like to open about 3-4 hours prior to the game. So usually noon games that would be the earliest, so 9 a.m. 7 a.m. is when they start parking in the lot and lining up at the door at 9. So if we opened earlier, they would be here. So pre-game is always fun, post-game is always fun too. Let's see, cons of being by Lambeau Field here, not too many of them, but people like to sometimes overindulge. You kind of have to work with that. Yeah, we've had to hire a few bouncers now. In the beginning, when people weren't used to Badger State Brewing here, and the word was getting out, and everyone seemed to be used to their other not so craft, not any craft beer. Just the alcohol content is higher than what they were used to. They didn't seem to read the board on that. Just the first couple of home games, we had to deal with that. But now everyone seems to be getting used to it, and we don't really have too much trouble anymore with that. But,
A little learning curve.
Yeah,
A little learning curve for
yeah,
the drinkers.
exactly.
So how about during the off season? Do you guys see a precipitous drop off in business? Do you guys kind of make your big money during the season and then it kind of falls
Well,
off,
honestly,
or is it pretty consistent?
Pretty consistent. Honestly, with 8 home games, there's not that many home games. So you're only talking about 8 Sundays, Mondays, or whatever have you. So it's not like huge thing, but a lot of the tourists in the off season, they'll still visit Lambeau Field, do the tour and whatnot over there. It's just really cool to be close to there because they are near Lambeau Field, of course. More and more business as they open up around here, you'll see this district grow and grow and get more popular with the patrons out there. No, not really. It's it's wintertime is pretty much kind of the downside of sales, but then that's good for us, and we can keep up and do a lot of barrel aging then.
I was gonna
That's
say,
our barrel age
yep,
time.
Yep.
Yes.
January, February, March, pound out the
Yeah,
barrels
yeah.
and get caught up on a lot of things that need to be getting caught up on in the brewery,
Yeah.
fixing things or.
So right now it's going to be ramping up real soon here.
Yeah, we're starting to feel it already.
Yeah.
So speaking of patrons and Lambeau Field, do you ever see any Packers in here on their off time?
That we've had.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Some like to keep it a little more secretive than others. Yes. We've had coaches, players. Yeah.
What do they like to drink? What's some of the favorite Packers beers on tap here?
I hear they like beer.
Okay.
Breaking news.
Let's see. McCarthy, I hear, is not too much of a beer drinker, but he was digging the Walloon.
Okay.
Here's a vodka guy, but that's all right.
That's some breaking news right there, folks.
Yeah, a little sneak peek there. Aaron Rodgers, I forgot what he was drinking. I missed him by 15 minutes. I left the brewery and him and his ex, I won't name, happened to be here.
Snuck right in there.
They snuck into the banquet hall here, so yeah.
And Andy, our other co-host on the podcast, wanted to know about, did you know about the planned development that's happening near Lambeau Field when you were looking this for?
In the early stages, kind of had an idea, but we didn't really know if it was going to come to fruition. And actually what's really cool now is they're going to be focusing, and that's on the other side of the stadium. So now after that's planned, now we're in the Legends District is what this district is called now, and they're going to be more focusing on this side of the Lambeau Field there. So that's really cool. Now you got that side of the stadium, there you got all the plans over there, really cool. Now their focus is going to be on this side of the stadium, which is really going to be awesome for us, and more foot traffic and more customers. It's going to be great.
All right, well, let's get back into the tasting here. So we got through the flagship beers,
Okay.
and now we're going to go a little off-road. We're going to get into some of the crazier stuff that
Watch
you guys
out.
do. So pick one and tell me about it.
Okay, Buzzy Badger is actually the Bunyan Badger Brown Ale with coffee. It is a bourbon vanilla blend coffee. I think we used about 4 or 5 different blends of coffee experimenting with this beer until we found this one blend that we really fell in love with.
That is delicious.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful coffee brown ale.
And that one actually will be soon canned. So we got the design all approved, ready to rock, and hopefully the semi-truckload of cans will be coming soon, and we'll be getting that one all canned up on the market.
So how do you do your coffee addition on this? Do you cold
this-
brew it, or do you add grounds directly to the barrel? Or?
Grounds directly to the fermenter.
That's the level of difficulty on that is a little higher than if you went the cold brew route.
Yes, done a few different ways, and kept coming back to this way of doing it. So far, so good.
Yeah, there are multiple layers of flavor that are coming through on this. It's really good.
Yeah, the vanilla seemed to really shine through, and everyone just loved that. And what came about that beer was we saw so many coffee stouts, coffee porters, and it's like, okay, what can we do? And we all love coffee here, way too much. So, and it was always like, oh, so heavy, dark beers. And then at the time when we came up with Buzzy, there wasn't so many coffee, lighter beers. And we just took the brown ale and we're like, hey, let's experiment with this. It's going to be easy. Let's just rack some of the brown ale off and add coffee to it and see what the hell we get.
My favorite thing about the Buzzy is that you actually get the brown ale underneath it. You're not losing the brown ale at all. You're getting the coffee, of course, but the brown ale stands up and says, hey, I'm still here. And you get a beautiful pairing between the two. And it's got this wonderful sweet character against that coffee, dark, astringent kind of coffee flavors.
And what's really cool is when you got like awesome brown ale to begin with and it evolves into something different. You just add one more ingredient to it and all of a sudden it just transforms it into something totally different. Boom,
Yeah,
coffee brown ale.
Because everybody loves to coffee up a stout, or throw
Yeah,
some
yeah,
vanilla in a
yeah.
stout. But
Yeah.
to be able to do those delicate flavors with a brown,
Yeah.
again, the level
Yeah.
of difficulty is a little bit higher. So tip my hat to you guys.
Yeah, there's when you're dealing with a lighter malt, there's less area for mistakes.
Yep.
So if you mess something up, it's going to show more than you can cover up with a bunch of other flavors.
Yeah, you're telling me. Yes.
For our listeners, when you start brewing with a lighter malt, the level of difficulty really goes up. So if someone can really nail it, that's impressive. So what do we have next here?
Oh, what do we got?
Is that Bavarian?
Our newest IPA.
Bavarian Blazer.
Experimental, might turn into something seasonal, we shall see. This one played around with a hop variety of Mandarina Bavaria. Never used it before, was really interested in trying it out. Has, to me, real like orange, mandarin forward tropical notes to it. I used that hop variety along with two other citrusy hops in that one. Not too crazy bitter, hoppy, but just real well balanced. Makes for a different kind of IPA, like a real orangey. Mm-hmm.
It's not a...
Yeah, I was really surprised on how much mandarin or orange.
Yeah, is there any
flavor
Citra in here, or is that just all the other additions?
No, this is strictly hops. Yeah, no orange peel,
Oh.
nothing. Yeah.
What's really fun about the Mandarin Bavarian of Bavaria is that you're getting a lot of these kind of fun orangey tones, the citrusy orange, almost pithy but not too mealy. However, it's still a hop. It's giving you wonderful hop aroma and tone as well.
Yeah, it's really cool because you look at the beer and it's got this very reddish color. So you almost expect it to go down like a red, like very sweet, very caramel. But it's, like you said, it's very tropical, very like...
Yeah, it's got like a reddish kind of
pineapple
oranges hue to it. I was kind of going for an orange color to it and not too much caramel, like you said. But that one actually was replacing the mean green until we got more hops for the mean green. So now that one...
So you guys were asking before about how our beers go from conception to... Well, now you're kind of seeing how they go from conception to...
Yeah, we're like, we need another IPA. We can't wait on the hops to come. So let's crank out something real tasty. And we had this one in the back of my head as far as experimenting on our pilot brew system. That's where the pilot brew system comes into play, like really big, and just love it because it's like if something really doesn't come out very well, I only have to dump 30-some gallons down the drain instead of 500s.
Have you had any costly mistakes?
A few, yes. I would rather forget those. But one of them actually being where I skipped the whole pilot brew system side, and I was like, I got this, and just brewed it on the big 15-barrel system that we have. That didn't come out so well, and I just couldn't justify putting that beer on tap, so down the drain that went. So I learned my lesson on that one. I'm like,
Better safe than sorry. Here at Badger State, we're just like our love for Wisconsin. We are very loyal and dedicated people to our craft. So we're not going to put on tap anything that we wouldn't love drinking ourselves.
All right, so we have a really special beer on tap for our audience. First, we're going to talk about the base Belgian, and then we're going to talk about the barrel aging that you guys went through on this one. So tell us about the base Belgian beer here.
The base beer we call Gold Ranger, kind of offshoot of the Lone Ranger, not the Power Ranger, but no, real nice. It's a Belgian Gold or Belgian Blonde, 7.5%, 8%, well balanced, kind of a little higher ABV Belgian Blonde ale. So then when we got one of our barrel brokers, when we found some Cabernet barrels available, jumped on the chance of buying those up, getting those in-house, and then figuring out how to use those barrels and what beer to put in those barrels, of course. And then kept coming back to the Gold Ranger, decided on that, and we'll, again, experimenting with that again. And did that when last year was the first version of it, so we did actually a Cabernet and Chardonnay versions of it, and both came out super great. I'm a more of a red wine fan, so the Cabernet was my favorite, of course. But the Chardonnay is also really great, too.
So how long was it aging before you knew that you had something special in that beer?
It was like 4 or 5 months into it. It was starting to really take character when we would do our sampling of it and see where it's at. I started beginning to see nice red hue to it. The Cabernet wine flavor was just coming through real nicely. I knew we had something there. So then we gave it another 4 or 5 months, so like about 9 months total on that one is when we finally decided to package it up. After we carbonated that beer, tried her out, and we knew we had something real special here. And it's strictly barrel aged. There was no cutting it whatsoever. We have like a tasting panel, of course, all tasting it, and we all decided, let's just leave it as it is. Package it up and make it part of our Walk to the Vine series. So this is our second year. We have it all packaged up, this year's version, ready to rock, and will be out very, very soon.
So let's talk about that series, the
Walk the Vine series.
Walk the Vine series. So tell us about that. What else can we expect coming out of some of these barrels? For the
Walk the Vine series right now is two different styles right now, the Chardonnay and the red wine Cabernet versions of it, and we'll see what other beers we can come up with as far as wine barrel aging goes. It's something different that we wanted to do. Everyone's doing like bourbon barrels, of course, but everyone wants to be different, kind of come up with the big new thing. Just these wine barrels can just add so much to a beer that we just fell so much in love with. This is going to be looking like yearly release.
That's really exciting. And if this first try is any indication, this is going to be a very, very successful series.
Thank you.
Jim, what do you think of this one?
I think the aging in the barrel for the wines is fantastic. I'm not a big Belgian guy.
We'll get you there.
The red wine nose. I'm a big red wine guy now. So
okay, good.
The juiciness on the nose. I got that nice red wine nose, and then There is, I'm not quite sure what that is on the palate.
Little oaky.
Yeah, the oaky,
like a French
vanilla.
oak. I can't disclose the winery, but it is a very well-established, expensive bottles too, and barrels. Let me tell you, we took the chance on getting a few barrels. We knew they were going to be costly, but once we found out what we can do with them, we got the chance to buy more. And we jumped up the chance of that.
Yeah, I highly recommend people, when they come up, try the base beer and then try it in the Cabernet. And you can sense the extra layers that it can lay upon.
Yeah, it's like a totally different beer. Even the Chardonnay, too. I don't have a bottle right now. I got to package it yet. That one's so good, too. Just nice, sweeter wine character to it. It's just fun to take one beer and just add a whole nother dimension to it. You got your Chardonnay, your Cabernet. You can do so much with one beer and just transform it.
Gives us reason to come back up.
Yes.
So speaking of distribution, you guys for a while were just a taproom only brewery, but now you've been discussing packaging beer.
Yes.
What are the plans around that?
For right now, we distribute as far as Door County North, Oshkosh South, and then we just got into the Wausau, Minocqua area out west. That's keeping us busy. We will be distributing out in other areas. We will want to get into the Milwaukee, Madison markets, but right now I can't produce enough beer as it is.
These are good problems.
These are good problems, and we'll see about another expansion.
So how are you distributing? Are you going through a distributor? Or are you
right now
self-distributing?
right now it's 3 distributors.
Okay.
We do a very small amount of self-distribution. So actually we are at one place in Milwaukee at Ray's Liquor and Spirits.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, North Avenue.
Yeah. They kept hammering us for our beer, so we're like, okay, let's do it. So distribution is always kind of a pain, but we're getting there.
So we got a couple more beers on this special edition flight here.
We got Sinister, and we have Maple Porter as well.
Okay.
Sinister is a version of our very first beer that the 3 founders here, including myself, did. So it's a Scotch ale, and as you can see from the name Sinister, I add cinnamon to it.
But it's subtle. It's not
you don't want to overdo it.
Very very much like the vanilla in the Dizzy Badger. It's very very subtle.
And you don't want a cinnamon bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course,
You don't want someone drinking a Big Red, right?
But yeah, it's subtle and it really adds to the full flavor of the beer.
Yes.
So you get the Scotch, so you get that little bit of peat, that little bit of smoke on the back end.
Yeah.
But the cinnamon, I don't know, it adds something. What do you think about that one, Jim?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a touch of heat from the cinnamon. There's also that subtle cinnamon flavor in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So they're accentuating the Scotch, by no means overpowering anything.
Yeah. So that one I use for Scotch ales. I know it's kind of 50-50. A lot of people don't like to use smoked malts, but traditionally you do. I did. Last year's version, I used a cherry wood smoked malt in it. Came out really nice. This year, I decided to go another route, go applewood smoked malt. So I was just thinking applewood smoked malt, cinnamon, go hand in hand. As a sneak peek, I don't think too many people know, but I took half the batch and barrel aged it. In apple brandy
More breaking
barrels.
news on the podcast.
More breaking news.
So we got a hold of some apple brandy barrels, Calvado, French apple brandy barrels. So apple brandy, apple with smoked malt, cinnamon. We'll see what we can come up with. Stay tuned. We just did that a few weeks ago.
Those barrels smelled fantastic.
So we'll see next year what we got packaged up. And
That's super exciting. But you guys are really challenging yourselves to be on the edge.
Yeah, stay ahead of the curve and keep innovating. People like their variety.
We don't like to get stagnant. We like to have fun and do what we can to push that boundary wherever we can find a boundary and push it.
Exactly. So
Sure.
So we'll see what we come up with.
You're always going to have the flagships, but
Yeah.
that's why this second part of the podcast, where we're dealing with some of the crazy ones that you guys are doing, this is exciting to us.
Yes.
This gets us out of bed.
There you go. Oh, and then let's see what else we got.
Let's move on to our last one, the Maple Porter.
Port de Mort. That is our maple porter. So real nice Strong, 9% porter. Put a good amount of maple syrup in it. Like the previous question, locally sourced ingredients. So this is Wisconsin maple syrup, of course. Put enough maple syrup into it to get a nice mapley background to it.
Basically, I could have made waffles and syrup for days and days.
Yes. So this is one of our seasonal releases. So in the wintertime, we'll have maple porter on tap. So I got a few kegs of this left over. You guys haven't had one of the last ones. So.
I'm glad we made it up when we did, Jim.
Yeah. Good timing.
All right, well, thanks so much for sitting down with us, guys. It's been amazing drinking the beers, hearing about what those beers are supposed to taste like.
No problem.
For our
coming.
audience.
Thanks for coming.
It's amazing being able to introduce some of our Milwaukee listeners to these great beers that are being made up here in Green Bay. And it's also really refreshing to hear that you guys are very much in touch with the beer community up here. That it seems to be a fraternity between you guys. That everybody's kind of looking out for each other, and that's really refreshing.
Yes. Thank you. The Milwaukee crowd making their trip up to Green Bay. Come on, stop in. I think you'll be really pleased. We got a lot of beer on tap.
Yeah, and if I can echo that, I would have to say that, once you stop in at us, you have to stop in at all the other Green Bay breweries. But, by the time you're done with them, you're going to stop over by us.
You'll
again.
come back.
Awesome.
Well, I echo those sentiments, and gentlemen, we always end with a big cheers. So,
Salute.
Very much.
cheers.
Huge thanks to the boys up there at Badger State and the wonderful beer they shared with us there in the shadow of Lambeau Field. If you're ever up there for a game, go there. Make it a destination. It's right by the stadium. It's beautiful. They've got a great outdoor area as well as a very beautiful tap room. I'm actually very jealous. They have, if I ever started a brewery, they have what I would want. It's that awesome. And you can taste a little bit of that awesomeness down here in Milwaukee too. They have just started distributing in this area. You can get Mega Blonde as well as the Golden Ranger aged in cabs, as well as their Dubious Ruffian, their chocolate stout. Very tasty as well. Alex, any final thoughts that you had on Badger State?
Well, I'll tell you what, like a lot of the breweries that we talked to when we were up in Green Bay during our little road trip, it really is a fraternity between the breweries. And that's one thing I really want to emphasize. I love to see when Milwaukee breweries do collaborations with each other, but it still does feel like a bit of a rat race here in Milwaukee with some of the breweries. Up there, it really is a collaboration. It's fun to see. I guess the distinction is there's less of them. There's less breweries up there, so they do have to kind of band together, and there is enough clientele to kind of go around. So in Milwaukee, there's a little less to go around. I don't know, Jesus, you were up there with us for the second two. What did you think of Green Bay and the brewing scene?
No, it was very cool. And they said, I think from that weekend, they were anticipating that seventh one to open, right?
Copperhead Brewing, I think, was the next one up.
Yeah, but amongst those six, they're really tight. They all know each other, and it was really neat because we would talk to one about the other and say, oh yeah, Brad's really cool. Oh yeah, these guys are really cool. So yeah, it was definitely a brotherhood, and it was what you would think of a smaller city or a smaller community. And even though Green Bay is bigger, but it was nice. It was cool.
So those six, are those just in Green Bay?
Yes, those are the Green Bay area breweries. Yeah, but they all help each other, and they're very close. So
and what was kind of interesting is that the original was Titletown, and then when Hinterland broke off from Titletown, that doubled the amount of breweries, and then Badger State and Stillmank opened around the same time. That again doubled the amount of breweries, and now they're almost doubled again. So I mean, it really does speak to the pace of the craft brewing industry. Some people say it's slowing down, but in some areas it's actually still growing, and we could definitely see that in Green Bay.
Yeah, there's a ton of education that needs to happen in the palate of Green Bay, but I think they've got some really great breweries opening up.
So let's get into the beers. Let's talk about these last two that we're kind of going to go through, and we've got a couple stouts, so this is exciting. This is kind of what we get into here on the podcast. Jesus, do you want to tell us about the two beers?
All right, the first beer is from their pilot series, Sticky Bandit Peanut Butter Ale, and the second beer is Whiskey Business Imperial Chocolate Milk Stout aged in bourbon barrels. And I gotta say, when I opened up that peanut butter ale, there is peanut butter there.
So I might have misspoken. Not a stout then. It's more of an ale.
Yes.
But it's a very dark ale.
I would say it's on the border of the kind of porter/stout. There's a lot of roasted notes that you would affiliate with a porter more than a stout, but it's definitely dark. It is dark, and it is nutty.
Yeah, what can you say? I mean,
that
it's peanut butter that hits you right away, right?
Yes, huge peanut butter nose. I mean, I've never had anything like this.
Andy, what do you think?
The peanut butter definitely comes through on the nose, like you were saying, Jesus. It's just okay to me. I mean, it's definitely, what did you say? It's an ale.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about it. I'm not a big fan of peanut butter beers, which is weird because I love peanut butter, but it's just so-so to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not breaking any barriers. It's not going to challenge you as a beer. Though this is my first, I didn't know there were a huge number of peanut butter beers. Apparently there's a whole world out there I'm not aware of. But I think there's big roasted notes. I love my roasted notes. There's almost a coffee kind of flavor coming through, though I don't think there is any. And then maybe just be the nuts.
I've had a couple of peanut butter beers myself, and I actually think this one is a little more subtle than some of the other ones I've tried. In some peanut butter beers I've had, it's really, really upfront, the peanut butter. I do get it right up front, but I think the heavy peanut butter flavor is more in the middle of the beer, and not so much on the back end. I get more roasted notes on the back end. So in that way, I think it's a little more subtle than some of the other peanut butter beers I've had.
So I was very concerned even seeing this, that would be overpowering. Like, all I would get was just a lot of nut flavor, and I don't like hazelnut beers at all. And I was like, oh my god, this is going to be a hot mess of a beer. It's going to be like sickeningly sweet. Yeah,
like I said, this was a pilot series.
Or
this is not the first one.
So this was definitely not their first one. I mean, it's a brewery that's been open for quite a few years now, but this is their pilot series, which seems very much an experimental series. It even says on the back of the bottle, some of these brews they're going to do again. Some of them will just be kind of one and done. So it's, this is the fun part about what we do, talking about some of the beers that brewers do that are extremely rare, that are extremely hard to find, that are just not produced on a very big scale. That's fun, small batch brewing, right?
This is one of the things that I'm really excited about for Badger State. They are not afraid to go out on a limb and try something new and try a large variety of beers and just produce them. And so Sam's doing a really great job up there.
I mean, yeah, why not push the limit? I mean, I'll agree with Alex that the subtlety is there. It's great on the nose. Great that it's not so much in your face when you're tasting it.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, so the second one here, we've got the Whiskey Business, which is an imperial chocolate milk stout aged in bourbon barrels. And this is where the podcast lives, right, guys? We love our bourbon barrels.
Yep.
How does this one hold up to some of the other bourbon barrel beers that we've tried on the Tap Takeover podcast?
So this is actually a unique experience for me because I've actually had this one on tap. I like this a little bit more from the bottle. I took the edge off.
I would say this is why some beers do need to be aged, and I bet you it was probably too boozy, too hot on the tap. That's what I remember. It was definitely hot off the tap.
Did you guys had it on tap?
Yes.
Obviously. Okay.
And
it was one of the first brews that we had when we got there.
Yeah.
I remember I tried the Juicy IPA because that's what I'm getting into. It's kind of the New England style. Second one was obviously their bourbon barrel stout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. These beers need to age. I mean, I know founders for bourbon barrel aged stouts question aging anything, but these things need to lay down for a while. They are too boozy. They need to mellow out. They have to be aged. I'm going to fight for that every time.
Some do, some don't. I actually think the KBS from Founders this year was pretty much on spot. I'm going to age a little bit of it, but for the most part, I'm running through my stock right now.
Yeah, I agree with the KBS from this year too. But this beer right here, the whiskey really shines as it warms up.
Yeah.
And it's fairly delicious. I would question why a milk stout.
Yeah.
Why not go Russian Imperial?
Well, especially because their primary stout is a chocolate stout. Why Sam felt it necessary to make it a chocolate milk stout instead of just a regular chocolate stout is Dubious Ruffian is their core beer. I'm not sure what the thought process in that was. Maybe to try to distinguish themselves a little bit, trying to enter a new market with this. Because the market is getting crowded with bourbon barrel aging, which is awesome.
Sure, you put that beautiful whiskey flavor when this beer is warmed up into a more viscous stout. I think more of the barrel flavor is going to pop off of it, not just the whiskey.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That it really highlights the bourbon when you do a heavier beer. And I would say it could probably age for a while longer. Yeah. I would think of another 6 months at least. This would continue to really let the barrel shine through more.
Yeah, so put it down, maybe pick it up in the fall during a Packer game or something. Bring it out with having some friends over.
That's a new tradition we got to start is bottle shares at Packer games.
Okay.
None of this damn Miller Lite, Bud Light stuff that goes around. Bottle shares at Packer games. It's going to become the beer destination.
But yeah, absolutely. Any sporting event that you're doing in the fall or in the winter, this would be fantastic. Yeah, maybe lay this one down if you have one.
Definitely warm you up too.
Yeah.
It's easily the best one of the night that I've tried. Badger State.
Yeah, I think that's why we saved this the best for last year. So I think that's going to do it for us, boys. That does it for the Sticky Bandit Peanut Butter Ale and the Whiskey Business. Great name. Love that movie. The Whiskey Business Milk Chocolate Stout aged in bourbon barrels. So for me, for Alex,
Andy.
I'm Jim.
Jesus.
cheers, boys.
Cheers.
This has been a solid non-fail production.